Shalom, brothers and sisters. Quickly want to touch on the latest news headlines before they get away from me again. German Navy commander has resigned amidst controversial statements about Ukraine. He said the Crimean Peninsula is gone and will never return to Ukraine. He also said he understands Russian President Putin's position and said Putin wants respect and maybe even deserves it. Now that's really interesting coming from Germany and a German commander in the armed forces. Then moving on from there, Germany has blocked NATO allies from transferring weapons to Ukraine. This is really interesting. Why are they blocking their NATO allies? Are they allied with Russia? Is it because of, in the words of their own commander here, that they agree with Putin and understand his position? This is interesting, especially also since it's Germany. And I mean, thinking back of World War II and the allies that she made there, is she making the same kind of allies now with Russia? It's definitely something to watch, I think. Taiwan Defense Ministry has reported 39 Chinese aircraft penetrating into Taiwan Air Defense Detection Area. Highest number since October 2021. Most of these were fighter planes too. Is China preparing for that attack that she's been saying she's going to do all along? Or is she just reminding everyone that she is keeping her eye and her mission focused on getting Taiwan back? This is also a very nice way for an ally of Russia to split the world's focus for the allies. So NATO has to look at the South China Sea, they have to look at Iran, they have to look at the Middle East, they have to look at Russia and Ukraine. It's chaotic at the moment. And then of course they have to keep their eyes on North Korea. A 4.1 earthquake in Tabriz, Iran. And then apocalyptic sights in Turkey from unusual weather fronts in the country. Animals froze in place, standing while walking due to the rapid temperature drop. The videos of these are really quite freaky. You literally see a fox sitting there and he's alive, but he's frozen almost to death. So you can touch his head and he can't do anything about it. It's apocalyptic. It's the best word. In response to ballistic missiles fired at Jozan industrial area in Saudi Arabia, the Saudi Air Force has began bombing Sada in Yemen. All right, this is total destabilization happening in that entire part of the world, which is wars and rumors of wars, which are coming more and more frequent all the time as we head into these final birth pangs. Initial reports of an attack on a missile base of Iranian Revolutionary Guards near Kermanshah. Is this Israel? We don't know, quite possibly. The Ministry of Defense in Abu Dhabi have announced that they've intercepted and destroyed 2 ballistic missiles fired by Houthi terrorist organization towards the area. This all ties in as well as a side war with Israel because of the Abraham Accords. It's a whole interesting setup to look at, why there's this violence and why this destabilization is taking place in this area. Then Biden is considering sending a few thousand troops to Eastern Europe and the Baltic states to bolster the NATO allies amidst the tensions. Is this going to help the situation or inflame the situation? In Australia, a primary school teacher has explained to students, primary school students, how men give birth to babies. This is twisted and sick. This is to the point where, do you have your kids in school anymore with the kind of sickness that they're teaching and mental health issues which are being seen as normal? This is just wrong on so many levels that we've drifted away from the Word of God and the Bible. As a moral compass, that moral compass for the planet seems to be broken or lost. Earthquakes in Israel. On Saturday, a 3.8 and a 2.9 earthquake, and on Sunday, a 3.6 earthquake. Israel's God's clock. It's interesting to watch, and multiple earthquakes in Israel now over the weekend. Of course, the ultra-Orthodox Jews are very excited because they reckon every time there's major seismic activity and earthquakes, prophets arrived on the scene. And they state the dates back in history. So they're expecting some prophets to arrive shortly. But keep your eyes on that. That was a very interesting situation, I think. US food supply is buckling under the pressure. Worker shortages are slowing production across the country And sickness, the sickness, amongst staff are also causing major chaos in the food and supply chain industry in America. This is that 7 years of famine and shortages. We have entered it, people. We are there now. The next 7 years is going to be rough. You can look at the financial and economics to crash and melt down the dollar, all of it. Keep your eyes on it. It's going to happen. It's already happening. China, Russia, and Iran are again holding naval drills in the Indian Ocean. This is the new axis. The old axis, Germany, Italy, and Japan. The new axis, China, Russia, and Iran. All three of them have got issues with America. All three of them have got issues with NATO. All three of them support each other. All three of them have issues with Israel. Danish Defense Minister and military chief announced that they are ready to take immediate action against Russia. Now, the interesting thing here is that more and more NATO countries are sending weapons and ships and planes, all to bolster NATO in case Russia attacks. This is forcing Russia into a situation where she can't back down, so she keeps bringing in more, and she's called up all her reserves. This is an untenable situation which is going to come to a head shortly, and that's not good for your average man, woman, and child on the street. There's going to be a lot of fallout here. We need to pray for the people that are going to be caught in the crosshairs of what's coming. Russian jets close to the Israeli border. Russian and Syrian jets are patrolling the Syrian border for the first time, including the Golan Heights. Moscow has announced joint jet patrols with Damascus are going to become a regular occurrence, and Israeli officials are struggling to understand the reason for the sudden policy change. Israel will now have to limit its air campaign in Syria as a result. So my thoughts on the Israel thing is very simple. I personally think Russia is getting them comfortable with the idea that they're in the area and getting them out of Syria. So Syria and Assad are happy they're getting Russian support, and Israel eventually gets used to the fact that there's Russian arms, munitions, aeroplanes, fighter planes, everything on their border. And when they least expect it, the biblical battles can go down. Russia can invade Israel. This is coming, so I think watch Israel. And it could also be that Russia is just trying to make sure Israel's preoccupied with the Golan Heights and her border to get involved in Ukraine as well. Putin's very wily and wise like a serpent, so we'll see what happens there. Check it out, keep your eye on it, and then watch this attached video about the apocalyptic icy fronts in Turkey. It's actually quite sad. Shalom.